Greetings and welcome to another impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at Retrace. Retrace is a mystery adventure game set in a parallel dimension where you play as Freya, a young woman who is all set to embark on a ghost tour with her friends. Unfortunately, things go epically wrong. While waiting at the bus stop, an earthquake strikes and Freya wakes up in a mysterious new location filled with monsters, death traps, and a spooky environment. That's more or less what's up in Retrace. It's a narrative adventure set in a small, very weird place that's trying to kill Freya and her friends. You explore, dodge the occasional monster, and solve puzzles where the price of failure is your death or the death of one of your compatriots. Monsters are fairly rare and easy to avoid, and the puzzles take the form of logic puzzles, such as trying to figure out how to get a wolf, a sheep, and a cabbage from one shore to another, without them eating each other. And, incidentally, you. What sets Retrace apart, and makes it a fascinating game to play, is the central mechanic that gives the game its title. Each time you die or reach one of the game's many endings, you're transported to a separate dimension run by a delightfully creepy demon named Matemna. Here, you can retrace the path you've taken, either by loading up a save from a previous attempt or by going all the way back to the beginning and starting over, armed with the knowledge of everything you've learned in an attempt to change your path and escape with all of your friends still alive. At the very beginning of the story, you're forced to make a choice. During the earthquake, you can grab onto one of your three friends. Each character has their own storyline, but also their own starting place and their own abilities, which affects where you can go and what you can do and find. Owen, for example, is strong and can move a boulder in one location that's hiding something behind it. Retracing your path and trying to change the outcome of events using what you've learned in previous paths, the butterfly effect, as Until Dawn would repeatedly point out, makes Retrace a really compelling game. Instead of being a relatively straightforward puzzle game, Retrace has you slowly unravel the story and the truth of the world in layers. You learn a little bit more each time, both about the cast of characters and about how to survive and potentially escape from this weird alternate dimension. In one run, you'll learn, for example, that Orn can move a large boulder with something behind it. So after reaching the end of that path, you start over with Orn and find out what's behind the boulder. That path leads you to learning something you can apply to a different path, changing the outcome of those events, which leads you to another revelation, and so on. It works really well for the story and the setting. Each new discovery simultaneously made me feel like I was making quick progress while also putting a new obstacle in my way, forcing me to think about everything I'd learned and how to apply that to an entirely different narrative path. Retracing also works wonders thanks to the delightfully relatable cast of characters. It's charming learning about their relationships and watching them change, evolve, and be tested over multiple timelines, which makes it particularly unpleasant when one of them meets an untimely end. The emotion of seeing one character grieve for another should be blunted somewhat by the fact that you have an unlimited amount of do-overs to save them all, but because Retrace very quickly gets you to care about them, it still sucks seeing them suffer. The only part of Retrace that somewhat suffers from this central mechanic are the puzzles themselves. Sometimes failure can lead you in a new direction and uncover a new facet of the story that you've missed. Usually, however, it just kills you. Picking the wrong option during a logic puzzle sees you murdered, but you're simply shuffled off to Matenma's dimension and quickly back to try again, meaning that no matter how difficult a logic puzzle is, it can easily and quickly be brute forced. It also means that you'll be solving the same few puzzles over and over again. Mercifully, the game recognises this, and after a few goes around, mostly lets Freya solve them automatically. But I still had to remember the solution to the wolf, sheep, cabbage puzzle more times than I'd have liked. But considering the main challenge in Retrace is applying newfound knowledge to paths you've previously tread, it's not too big a deal. Retrace also builds an effective atmosphere, thanks in large part to its music. At first it felt like the soundtrack was going to be an annoyance. It's loud and kind of chirpy as you explore this supposedly horrible death trap. But then I entered a new room, and the tone shifted completely to a chilling tune that literally gave me goosebumps, especially when I realised what I was looking at. The juxtaposition is what made that moment work, and it gave me an appreciation for the rest of the soundtrack. Sudden shifts are common, and events are really well highlighted by these swift musical changes, especially in lieu of voiced dialogue. Retrace is a really fascinating puzzle game with a compelling central mystery and an intriguing core narrative packed to the rafters with a cast of well-written, likeable characters. While it's relatively easy to brute force your way through the game's logic puzzles, the broader puzzle of how to change the events of each storyline to make progress is engrossing, and I feel really invested in getting everyone safely to the end. Both because I'm deeply curious to see how this all plays out, and simply because I like the characters. Retrace is a fun little narrative adventure game that I can definitely recommend. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, consider sticking around. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, consider sticking around here at Words About Games. Our content includes review impressions of games big and small, a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing the happenings in and around the games industry, weekly opinion videos, reactions, debate-driven top 5 and top 10 lists, a regular Hall of Fame series where we discuss our favourite games, and indie game spotlights. We also stream every Friday and Saturday at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. Most importantly, have a brilliant day.